Hello, guys. Hey. It is 9 o'clock at the intimate hour. So I'm going to give you guys time to hop on. Real quick, like. There's a hair in my head. I'm trying to stand up. Hey, guys. I'm sharing our live, so give me a second. I suck at multitasking. I used to be really good. I don't know what happened. I think my old age is starting to get to me. And I'm starting to struggle with multitasking these days. So yes. So anyhow, hopefully you guys have been dealing with this whole quarantine stuff and all that good jab. Hey, y'all, come on in. Please share my live. We're going to be discussing intimacy tonight. I kind of have like a special treat, I guess you could say, for intimacy. So yeah. So y'all come on in, share my live. Hey, guys. We're going to enjoy a little bit of intimacy tonight. So I got the red lip, just the boldness of it, darling. I'll be doing the most sometimes. Hey, y'all come on in. Y'all please share my live. We'll be discussing intimacy. I can't see who's all on. I hate when this thing does that, where I can't see. But, oh well, it doesn't matter. So hopefully y'all have not been going stir crazy like the rest of us, being at home and everything else. So anyhow, I wanted to keep my same program of intimacy. Last night, I've been working out. So last night I was like too sore and broke down to do intimacy. So anyway, I didn't do it last night. I feel like it's on my tooth. I get so distracted on this live. I got to get my life together. I got to get my life together and do better in 2020. So anyway, I have, one second. I got to get this. I have these full lips, darling. And sometimes red lipstick and full lips just can be a disaster. But anyway, if you want to purchase the book Intimacy, hey Joshua, if you want to purchase the book Intimacy, it is on my website. It's also on Amazon. It's also in form of an ebook as well. If you order from the website, which is in the link, I do have a special discount code out there right now called WIN. And if you use that discount code, I will ship your book for free to you, signed already by the author extraordinaire. So, anyway, I wanted tonight to talk about the book because I think some people have questions about it and intimacy as a whole and kind of what to expect as this book has come out. And so I wanted to start at chapter 1, and I promised my team that I would read, which I don't know why it makes me so nervous as much as I do lives, but it still does because it's a good thing. I don't ever get too comfortable. Hey, Shayna. So y'all please share my live. I'm sure people will watch it. People always watch my stuff after the fact. I guess they'd be like too afraid to hop on. I don't know. But anyway, I definitely want you guys to read Intimacy. So Intimacy is a couples read. It's not for just women or just men. I actually wrote this book from a vantage point of a man and a woman. And so I definitely wanted us to really start diving in deeper and connecting deeper with our mates and asking those questions and really learning how to, especially for our generation, of really learning how to speak to the king in him as his queen, his kingship, and as the king to a queen, how to allow her to be soft enough in your presence where you're able to get the most inner, softer parts of her. Because every man wants to be able to enjoy the soft parts of a woman. And so a lot of times pain can make us hard, and agony and pain and agony can make us hard. And it'll have hey Shannon, it'll have it'll have a different type of effect on all of us, right? And so intimacy is kind of that way of breaking down that wall. And yes, I lived it. So, because I don't write any book, nothing that I write is not something that I've lived. Even if I don't always talk about it, it does not mean that I didn't live it, because I can only write as I live. So I wanted to read chapter 1 to you guys, and it's actually called Anxiously Awaiting. And I thought, how funny and befitting at the same time this was for me, because that's absolutely the season that I'm sitting in. So I'm anxiously awaiting my king. I'm still, I'm single. And so I have not met that person yet. And I get this question a lot from women, and even sometimes from men too, like, when is this person going to finally come? Like, when is this going to finally happen? Because the thing about love is one of those things that although it has the option to hurt all of us, we still really desire it. And so because we still really desire it and we do still really want it, it makes it one of those love-hate relationships, almost like you love to hate it, but you love to love it. You just ready for it. And, dating in 2020 is so much more different than it was in 2005 or 4 when I was dating. So it's completely different territory for me. And especially when you're dating with purpose, it's like a completely different territory at that point, because, now you have to conserve who you are, conserve why you're attaching yourself to people, figure out why they're here, and so, you don't want to just give your heart away to somebody that doesn't have the capacity to hold what you carry. And I can definitely say I've been at that point that I'm like, God, I'm just tired of thinking that this person may have what it takes and then only to find out they don't have it at all. Like, I'm sick of it. And I think that's that's a big issue for most singles that are purposely dating. And men have the same gripe, because women are not perfect. All of us don't come perfectly packaged and just ready for love. Some of us still want to play. Some of us, just want to manipulate. Hey, Dina. And so, all of us are not ready for what we say that we're ready for. Some of us are still really trying to find ourselves, and others, we kind of play around because we've been hurt so many times that we just would much rather not be bothered. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just much rather not worry about it, because I don't want to have my heart broken again. I don't want to get my hopes up again only for you to turn around and break it. But God, I'm still anxiously waiting for you to give me my forever, and I'm in a season where I just want to set our legacy in stone. Like, my demeanor and thought process is just so much more different. And I'm awaiting for that person that's going to help me build my empire. I'm like, God, okay, I got 50 businesses that I need to pump out, and I need my covering. Where is my covering? Can you find him? Can you locate him? Please. Thank you. This way. Let me send you my address. And I think that a lot of women and men can attest to that feeling of anxiously waiting. Like, when somebody shows up, you're like, okay, is this the one? And then, they let you down. Hey, Natoya, y'all please share my live. then they let you down and they ain't the one, or they not who they said they were, or, who they said they were and who they are, two different people. And you just find yourself getting frustrated. But I will tell you that I believe that the time will come, and it's going to come in the right season. One thing about God that I truly do love about him is that he always makes sure that what we desire for our lives always shows up in the proper season. And so just continue to stay in preparation. I'm out here with you. I understand. I get frustrated with God too. Sometimes I'm like, God, can I go back to my old ways when I didn't care? Can I go back to my old ways when I didn't care and move on and just see how that works out? And he's like, no. So I wanted to read Anxiously Awaiting. It is the first chapter of the book Intimacy, so you guys can see it. It is the, hard copy. It has a nice chocolate chocolate, man, because that, that is my type. That would be it. So, but it's a beautiful book, a beautiful conversation of intimacy, and I'm going to read tonight the first chapter. The beauty of this also is that it's not very long at all. The chapters are not long at all. So it makes it a really great couples read. And so when I started out the book, I started it from the woman's perspective. And I started it out from what women are thinking in the moment of anxiously awaiting. So, I underestimated your depth, and if I'm completely honest, I did so because I had been hurt and disappointed in my past relationships. I truly could not fathom you being any different from what I had encountered before. Although life is truly black and white, I found myself allowing my insecurities to color my life gray. Inevitably, that made it hard to see you. Sitting here, I wonder, how could someone that amazing sit right under my nose, and only now can I see him in all of his glory? Some would have depicted this encounter as strange, but the truth was that through my God-given gift of prophecy, I knew intimate details about a man whom I barely even naturally knew, and that did really happen. A part of me is ready for something different, while another part of me is comfortable with the same type of dysfunction. Oftentimes, we ask God for what we believe we're ready for, when honestly, we're not ready at all. Imagine if God gave us a preview, like a movie, of what was to come, and if we decided to sign up for that person. Then we could assess how ready we truly are. Parts of me can't wait to be loved by you, while my scared parts are afraid of exposure. What if he isn't who he says he is? And what if showing him my scars makes him be like the last guy? Can he understand me without judgment? Can he see past what I've done and respect who I've become? The crushing process is inevitable when you are becoming. And the process comes with no glitz or glam. Better yet, it comes with vulnerability and transparency. Meanwhile, I sit impatiently waiting for you to make a move, waiting for you to do something to prove that you are just as interested as I am. Understand, I know I'm a lot of woman, but you have two hands to help carry all that I am. The most attractive thing about you is your discipline, your ability to be stubborn to people, but meek to God's will for your life. Your silence teaches me more than your words ever could. Your routine actions display that you don't desire to run after the latest thing, but that you are a true hunter who analyzes your prey in order to cover and pray for her. The thought of it is all true intimacy. Maybe in this season, God was showing me that paying attention to how a man hunts is far more important than desiring an impulsive movement that doesn't require strategic thought. So here I wait and watch, wondering, when will you move? Anxiously awaiting. So that's chapter 1 of the book. And so as our discussion for tonight is, how anxious does anxious get? One of the things that I learned about myself as I wrote Anxiously Awaiting, sometimes I get men in this season. I'm an alpha female. So we all know alpha females are very strong women. Sometimes we are aggressive women. And we just don't like to be out here waiting on anybody. And it's like men these days, it's almost like they either realize that there's a shortage of them and a influx of us. And so they almost like expect for a woman to chase them. And God never designed for women to hunt ever. He designed for us to be hunted, to be seen, to be sought after, right? As his favor, never the other way around where we're seeking after men. But I found myself, just wondering like, okay, if you like me and I like you, like, what are we doing? Like, are you going to make a move? Are you going to say something? Are you going to do something? Are you going to send a smoke signal that says you think the same way, or you're interested in anything? And I think that for women, we all go through that. Like, we go through those moments where we're like, okay, God, what are we doing? What's really going on in this situation? What is this person's real motive? Do they have a motive? Do they like me? Do they not like me? And sometimes you just get frustrated with waiting. And I think sometimes the enemy hopes that you get so tired of waiting that you just give in to anything, and that you begin to just aimlessly fall for anything or foolishly fall for anything. And when those moments happen and when that time happens, that is when you typically fall for the okie doke. And, I will say it's really, really tough when you're dating with purpose and you're setting the standard, because, you have to, you want the person to reach, or really not reach it, but exceed your expectation. But at the same time, it's like, do I have to lower my standard just so you can exceed? Because at that point, did you really exceed if I had to lower my standards just so you could reach it? Like, you didn't fall, you kind of falsely did it, right? And so then you find yourself getting frustrated later on, because then that person doesn't have the capacity to hold what you carry. And so I tell people, especially us that are dating or, what have you, entertaining people, just in conversation, is to always want to know, what is that person's purpose? Because if you know what your purpose is, like, I know what my purpose is. I know that I was called to be a midwife. I know that my purpose is to help others birth theirs and maximize theirs, and also help to heal, right? Heal others. And so that is my purpose. I realize that. So because I know that is my purpose, it makes it easier as far as knowing when you meet somebody if this person's assigned to it or not. But at the same token, it doesn't make it any easier, because you're like, God, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, like, I'm ready to get this over with, like, checked off my list. And for me, it's really tough because I felt like I had this part of my life checked off my list, So I went from having it checked off to not having checked off at all, going back to the drawing board, and the drawing board doesn't look anything like I remembered it. And that's really, really, really hard. Because people these days are so fickle, and everybody's just looking for somebody that they can just deal with for the time being. And people will use you as a Band-Aid if you let them. They'll use you as a Band-Aid if you let them, and they'll just kind of, aimlessly come and aimlessly go. And it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating, especially when you have my type of mindset where you're ready to build with somebody, and you're ready to really continue to set your legacy in stone. And so it can be that anxiously awaiting feeling where you're like, is this ever going to happen? How slow must you go? And I know I've had those conversations with other women, who are out here back on the dating scene. And most days I just be like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of waiting on you, because again, I'm an alpha female, and I tell people all the time, if you sow into me, if you you gonna reap a harvest. So I'm one of those people that, yes, I have vision, but I also have execution, because you got a lot of people that can see stuff but they're not doing anything with what they saw. I'm the complete opposite. I can see it and execute on it, and I believe that most strong whole women are. And women that have the mindset of let me build with you, let me build my home in you, let me come up beside you and help to be that person that pushes you closer to your purpose and your most optimum self. We are very frustrated people, because you have people that'll pretend like, oh yeah, I want the same thing. And then the truth is they don't want anything but to waste your time. They really just wanted something quick. And intimacy is not something quick. Intimacy is a slow dance. It is, conversations on the phone. It's, laughter. It's getting uncomfortable, talking about your past, talking about how you healed from that last relationship, talking about what's your purpose and where do you see yourself. Because a king should have vision. As a queen, oftentimes I feel like a man that has no vision is a man that will lead you to land of nowhere, because he don't even know where he going. And for an alpha female, our number one desire is to submit to a man that we can trust. And if you don't have a vision, we don't trust you. Let's just start there. And you're going to have a really tough time leading a strong woman, because we expect that you have thought about where you're headed, why you're headed, how long it's going to take you to get there, what are we going to need as we travel. We expect you to be the ultimate gentleman like God. When God has a plan for your life, he's very strategic with his plan. And so we expect our kings to be very strategic with his plan. And so when you don't have that, it's one of those things where you're like, it's frustrating. And even for kings, I hear men all the time who are dating, or some of them are in relationships, and their biggest gripe is she doesn't want to follow me, or she don't have her own hustle. She doesn't have her own thing going. And, when you think, we always talk about the story of Ruth and Boaz, but Ruth was working when Boaz found her. Like, she wasn't sitting there just waiting for somebody to pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had her own grind. She was already working. And so most men, especially kingdom-minded men, they want a woman that's already working, that's already got her own. And that way they can look and see, okay, what does this person really have going on? Who this person really is? And really kind of glean from you, what to expect if they decide to sign up to be with you. And all of those things are very, very important. We don't have much time. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody keeps like, oh, well, you just 33. You got time. How you know? Because all the people I'm seeing on my timeline with a RIP are 30-something years old. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of RIPs of 80-year-old people. And if I only have a certain amount of time in my dash, I want to make sure that I'm properly aligning myself with the person that's going to cover me as I travel to the next level of purpose, because I want to die empty. That's my goal. I want, when it's all said and done, God's like, okay, you did everything I put in you, you utilized. And I do believe that proper covering is so important. I was explaining to one of my girlfriends the other night. I was like, I feel like in this season, because I am in the anxiously awaiting season where I'm like, God, can you just come on? Like, I'm tired. I don't know what more you want me to do. And I told her, I said, I feel like I am waiting in the rain under a pavilion, and the guy says, hey, stand here with the umbrella. I'm going to go get the car. And I'm just standing there, and the rain is still kind of hitting me. I have a little bit of covering, but I'm like, God, can he just come on with the car so I can get in? Then that's how I feel. That's that anxious feeling where you're like, okay, can you come on? How much longer? How far was the car? Because I'm getting rained on out here, and I'm ready to get into something that I know I'm going to be safe and protected in. And I think that most men and women, especially ones, like I said, that are looking for a purpose mate or desiring a purpose mate, feel that way. It's like, okay, when is it going to happen this time and be for real? Because people come for reasons and seasons, but it's like, who's serious? who's serious about this. And for me, it was very uncomfortable, but I will say what I did learn in that season, and what has helped me in this season that I'm still kind of in, anxiously awaiting, is that it allowed me to watch a man's actions, and more so look at his actions more than I listened to his lips, and really see how strategic he moved. Because the thing is about men and about hunters is that however they come at you, that is their strategy. And so if he's coming at you on some random inbox in your DM, hey, that means he probably in somebody else's. I promise you that, like, that's their strategy. And the idea is, if somebody responds, okay, cool, and they just keep using it, and you're like, is that your strategy? Like, so if we're together, is that what you're gonna do? So being very attentive to how a man approaches you to capture your attention is extremely important, because however he comes to attach himself to you, that is his strategy. And even for women, men, the way she comes to approach you, that's her strategy. And so you kind of have, if you're not okay with that strategy, then you may not be okay with that situation. And for me, I'm in a season where I'm soft and I'm sensitive and I'm methodical about my movement and strategic about my plans. And so I want someone that is thoughtful, that remembers, that listens, that is intimately invested in intricately learning me and wanting to know the depths of me, who I am, why I am this way, what made me this way, what made me, what makes me choose these types of choices. Why do I like those things? Why can I not handle those things? Because, oftentimes we get so caught up in sex and that kind of thing that we sometimes will miss the true beauty of a person. Like, if you only think that a person is only good for what they can give you sexually, then you've absolutely discounted all that God put in that person, and you're missing out on probably one of the greatest people you'll ever meet. Because the difference between just sleeping with somebody and having an intimate connection with them before you go there sexually is that bond is ridiculously crazy. And like, you don't be worried about, well, is it gonna be good? Oh, it's gonna be amazing, because mentally and spiritually and emotionally, you've already intertwined yourself with this person before physically doing it, before, that physical act. And so at that point, it just heightens everything, and makes it a way more enjoyable time. But it's a slow process. It's like cooking roast. It's a slow process. You don't just cook roast in 30 minutes. It's going to not be good. And that's how intimacy is, but it's the most fulfilling, and it'll take your relationships past, the bumpy days and the hard days and the days when you want to give up. It'll take it past those days, and you'll have other things to hold on to because you intimately understand that person's triggers and their whys. And that's the thing, understanding someone's whys. I need to know why you do what you do, or why you move the way you move, because all of those things are extremely important about you. I don't want you to have all this value and all these benefits, and I only took advantage of one and didn't even sit to look at all the rest of you. I think that's just such a slap in God's face, because every person has something in them that is just magical, but for men, women, especially for Black women, we really struggle with getting soft because we have been hurt so many times. And one thing about disappointment, it has a way of putting a extra layer around the heart that it makes it sometimes almost too tough to tear down. And so for us, we have to have that safe place, that safe moment of where we can come in and really just lay down our bags with you, and know that you're not going to throw it in our face later. Know that you're not going to say, well, that's your bag, you pick it up. That you're going to pull up on the side of us and say, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I'm sorry that happened, or just thank you for sharing it. Because for us, for Black women, it's hard. We weren't taught the art of softness. We weren't taught the art of vulnerability and letting it all go and laying it on the table. We were taught to keep it inside. Don't tell the left hand what the right hand's doing. Like all of those stupid sayings that doesn't allow a person to intimately get to know us, because we won't let them in, because we're too afraid of what will me letting you in do now. If I let you in now, then what? What do you do with that information? And so, that's a very tough thing. And so for us, for Black women and for women, period, I think it's even a Black woman, just for women, period, we need consistency. See, consistency is my love language. I need you to be consistent. If whatever you start with me, you need to continue. So if you start with good morning, beautiful, I'm going to be expecting that. I'm going to need that. I need consistency, and I need you to keep your word. I think that's another big thing for women that we struggle with is he going to keep his word, and is he going to be honest? So we need consistency. We need to be able to depend on you, and we also need your honesty. And just having those three things in our kings will naturally make us want to submit and be vulnerable with you. And then you get that soft side of us. Then you get that love, that attention that you desire from your queen, because we believe that we can be our most authentic self in your presence and not be concerned about being taken advantage of. And so I think that especially for women, because we talk about this so much, every great woman anxiously awaits a great king, because we don't want to settle again. We probably done settled a time or two, and we just don't want to settle again. And I know that I'm definitely at that season where I'm like, God, I don't want to settle, because if I settle, I'll never be settled. And then I'll be really, really frustrated with myself, and it really ain't going to work then. And so I don't want to settle. I don't want to go for good when God says I have greater. But I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for greater. And I think oftentimes we do, like I said in chapter 1, we ask God for things, but we're not really ready, And we'll tell God that we want this certain type of love or attention or affection. And the truth is, when it shows up, we're absolutely not ready for it. And then we struggle. And sometimes we cut on our mates because we weren't ready. And it's, the thing with dating and getting to know people is that when I wrote intimacy, I wanted to challenge us to not just just hurry up, go have a drink and let's go home. But let's really sit down and learn a person's whys, respect them enough to want to know about them. Like, respect them enough to want to know more than just their last name. I think that, that's what's missing and lacking in our relationships. And so when we don't do that, and it's just all about the physical and me, and what we can get, we find ourselves in divorce court, marrying the wrong person. And like I said on a live previous this week, when we marry for wrong, we'll divorce for right, because you had no business marrying that person in the first place. So, but if you were into me, you would have known that person didn't have the capacity to meet, reach, or beat your expectations. But we move too quickly, and, we get distracted by the attraction. Like, he got bow legs, his sweatpants nice. He got a good job. We get distracted by the fairy dust, and we completely miss the angel. And so I wanted us in intimacy, when I wrote it, to be one of those moments where we didn't get caught up in the fairy dust, but we actually really took the time to appreciate God's creation and the person that sits in front of us and their journey, and appreciate who they've become and who they had to die to be, and not use it as a means to hurt them or to bring it back up or to put a check mark in the back of your head like, girl, he probably still trifling. Like, don't do that. For women, if the biggest compliment I've ever received from a man was that I was soft enough that he felt like he could be his most vulnerable self with me. I had someone share that with me, and I felt like that is the greatest compliment I've ever gotten from a man, was that in my presence, I made him feel safe enough to be his most authentic self. And I think for us, it's an art. And it was because I didn't judge him. He shared his story, shared, his life and some of the things he's gone through in increments, of course, because men are hurt too. Men get hurt as well, because women, we're so strong sometimes we don't realize how fragile men are. But men are extremely fragile. Their little egos are extremely fragile. And if you crack a joke at the wrong time, or say something to your friends that he said to you in private and he finds out, men are really, really hard when you break their trust to get it back. It's really hard with them. And so, to me, the greatest compliment a woman can receive from a man is that he felt safe enough to be his most authentic self with you. That means that you have captured the heart of him, the purpose of him, the whys of him. And so anytime that he's around you, he can allow you to love the true parts of him. Not the facade that he puts on for his homeboys, because he don't want them talking about him and calling him weak. Not the facade that he puts on for his job or for his parents or whomever else is in his life. Men need a soft place to lay their heads. They need a place to rest. And as queens and women who are natural nurturers, it's our job to provide that. But men, in order for us to provide that, you've got to fertilize your soil with good things. A woman can reproduce anything when her soil is fertilized. Anything. We can really reproduce anything when you fertilize our soil properly. And so, by giving us affirmation, by learning our love language, by speaking to our love language and being considerate of us, if you ever want to be loved appropriately, just love us right. Learn to love us and we will master loving you. That's real talk. If you learn to love your queen, she will master learning to love you. Because especially if she's an alpha female, because everything's competitive. So if you loving us good, we want to love you better. If you were loving us great, we want to love you the best. It just goes back and forth. And who doesn't want to be in a relationship where you work hard to outlove the other person? Where the competition is not about power and who's getting told what to do, but it's about being fed properly. It's about being properly aligned. It's about empowerment of the other person, positivity, because those are the types of things that feed our communities and that feed our children and that stop bullying and that stops, these hate crimes and all this kind of stuff. It all starts at home, and it all starts with what we put out as parents and what we put out in our relationships. And so, I really, really wanted that to be seen. And so in intimacy, I write from a perspective of her. And then I also write from the perspective of him. And the perspective of him is basically women, a man telling you the things that he's been terrified to tell you all this time. So, one of my number one questions that I typically ask people whenever I'm talking or coaching is, tell me what's on your heart. Because one of my very favorite bloggers and influencers, T.C. Hughes, always says that a man lives in his head, but he rests in his heart. And as a woman, if you want to be able to be his resting place, then you've got to know what's in his heart. And so knowing what's in his heart and being a part of that and learning how to master what's in his heart, then you really can get the core of him. And that is one of the most beautiful things ever, because our men work hard. They're always thinking. They're always, coming up with something else to do. And sometimes they're not mentally there. And sometimes when they come home, they're just mentally exhausted, as women are. And so I want to encourage you guys as you read Intimacy. If you're a single, you definitely need to read Intimacy, because you need to learn we need to learn how to get soft. And if you are in a marriage and one of the arguments is, you not let me be the man, or I don't feel safe to tell you certain things, or it just appears that person does not really give you their all. Intimacy is definitely going to be a book that you want to read, because it gives you the insight of what a man is thinking. Because I promise you, I've had several men to read it, and every man that has read it has said this to me: I wish that my spouse would read it and say these things to me. So I look, I'm just saying, women, when God allowed me to write it from both perspectives, he allowed me to write as a man. And so when I allowed men to read it, and I've been getting feedback from men that have read it, those were the comments was I got to get my spouse to read this because I don't know how you knew, but this is exactly how I felt. And so it's a beautiful read. It's a beautiful writing piece, and there's going to be a part 2. So I cannot wait to start writing on that and have more out about it. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you've enjoyed this live about anxiously awaiting, and definitely click the link, save on the free shipping, and purchase the book as soon as possible because you need to get it in your hands. You in the house, quarantined anyway. You might as well read because readers are leaders. Okay, readers are leaders, and if you want to lead in intimacy, then you need to get the book. So share my live. I love you guys, and you have an amazing night intimately. Good night.